I can't do good work if I'm not aligned. And
Yeah.
so that's absolutely the foundational practice, is to like come back to the center, come back to the
Yeah.
source and create from that place. And that is the best work you can do. I feel like everything on the outskirts of that is just, if it's not coming from that place, it's just scattered energy and you're kind of just like
Yeah.
running like a chicken. Yeah. So like to
Yeah.
come back to that place and then to create from that place is like that one step from that place is 100 times more powerful
Mhm.
than like a billion steps with the other sync. You know what I'm saying? With
Yes.
yourself.
Welcome to Mind, Body, Spirit, Food. I'm Nicki Sizemore, and in this podcast, we explore how food connects us and sometimes disconnects us to our minds, bodies, spirits, the earth, and our communities. This is a space dedicated to bringing more presence, intention, ease, and joy into the process of feeding ourselves. Let's dive in. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the show. I am still abuzz with energy from today's conversation. And in fact, usually I give you guys a synopsis of what I talk about, but today I'm not even going to do that because I just want to get into this show. This was one of my favorite conversations yet. I speak with Jerrelle Guy, who is an acclaimed food writer and photographer. She's the author of the new cookbook, We Fancy, which we touch upon in today's episode and which I adore. She's also the author of Black Girl Baking, which was a James Beard Award finalist. And she's the publisher of the Dinner Ritual newsletter on Substack. This conversation went in so many different directions. I mean, we talk about work and life and purpose and our inner selves and play and pleasure and our bodies and freedom. And there is so much here. This was the first time I have ever spoken with Jerrelle, and it felt like a real soul connection. In fact, we ended up talking for 30 minutes after we stopped recording. I kind of wish we had just kept on going, but these episodes can only be so long. I hope you love this conversation as much as I did. If it resonates with you, please let me know and please support the show. This work couldn't happen without all of you amazing listeners. Thank you for being here. You can like the episode. You can rate the podcast over on your podcast apps, leave comments there. You can also hop over to my Substack, Mind, Body, Spirit, Food, like the episode there, share it with your people. And of course, if you become a paid subscriber for just a few bucks a month, you make this possible. This truly could not happen without community support. It is an ad-free podcast, and I'm so grateful for all of you who make it happen. If you become a paid subscriber, you get access to the full recipe archive, which is over 150 recipes at this point, all gluten-free. You get bonus content, whole bunch of other fun perks, and my undying adoration. You can also support my work by buying my book, Mind, Body, Spirit, Food, which is now available wherever books are sold. Okay, my friends, without further ado, I can't wait for you to meet Jerrelle. Jerrelle, like reading the introduction to your book was like, I have found a sister. That's what it felt like. I was like, oh, to find the people on the path, on this path, is so important. And especially somebody in the food space too, because
Mhm.
for a long time, this path of mine, which kind of bridges spirituality in a way and food, and I'm always like qualifying spirituality for me is just like connection, connection, connection. But to find somebody else in the food world on a similar path is really special.
Yes, I agree. I mean, honestly, I just went through this kind of life-changing ego death like experience.
Hmm.
And I really battled with that alone. And I feel like I
Mhm.
kind of just assumed, just based on when I would poke my head out, that other people
Yeah.
didn't really relate.
Yeah.
And so I've kind
Totally.
of like been a little like a shy little hermit. So when you
Yeah.
reached out to me and you're like, we're saying the same thing. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, maybe I could just like come out and express myself. Like, and so I
Yes.
really appreciate you like tapping
Mm.
my shoulder and being like, hey, like, yeah, like we're saying the same thing because it makes
Oh,
me like, like I like it's so easy to be like, oh, be authentic and like show up and be
yeah.
expressive and all of this stuff. But I just think it really does matter who's around you and who kind of like brings
Yeah.
that out of you. So that's why I was
Yeah.
excited to talk. I'm like, I'm wondering where this conversation is gonna go when I just know that I can say certain terms and like, and
Yes.
I don't have to over explain or like, like you
Yes.
just get it. And so then it makes my like nervous system like just like chill. And I'm
Yes.
like, yeah, like, hi, like cool. We both like been through it and like we're on the other side in a way. And like, yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's Oh, I have so many things I wanna talk to you about, and I have a feeling like this is gonna be the first of many conversations, whether they're
Oh,
recorded or not. Like,
I
sorry,
hope so.
listeners out there, but you're not gonna be privy to every conversation we have. But today you are, and this is gonna be I feel like this is gonna be so special. But I'm gonna ask you the first question that I ask all of my guests so that people can get to know you if they don't know you, and that is, what is your cultural upbringing, and how has that influenced your relationship to food?
So I was born in South Florida, and I think, you know, just the foodways in that area, it's just like a really rich ecosystem. So you have,
Mm,
obviously the sea is right there. So you have a lot of seafood. But because the Caribbean islands are there, you have Cuban influence, Haitian influence, Jamaican influence. And so, I mean, the ways those foods kind of like overlap really influenced my palate.
mm,
But then also, because I come from, like, a multicultural family, my dad, who is, like has roots in, like, the Deep South, like Mississippi, Alabama, have those influences in my food. And then my mom, who is from the Pacific Islands, and she came to the States, like, to join the army, that food has, like, Filipino influence and American influence also, but kind of influenced by the war. And,
mm.
like, a lot of, like, I think interestingly, Spam and, like, canned foods and things like that,
Yes.
but a lot of Spanish influence. We ate a lot of things with, like, soy sauce and vinegars, pickled things, and so that's made its way into a lot of my cooking as well. So, I don't know, I just feel like I have a lot of different influences, but those are the kind of strings that I find I crave and, like, keep coming back
Mhm.
to and keep, like, weaving into my recipes. So it seems really random, but Florida has its own, like, name for cuisine, which is Floridian, and I found that really, really funny because I didn't know that until
Oh.
maybe, like, 5 years ago. But
Oh.
yeah, but it's, like it's really rich and it has, like, influence from the fresh produce that's there, fresh fruit and, like, the mangoes and the oranges and all of that stuff. So, I mean, all of it kind of just
Mm.
makes this really, I don't know, great, great,
Yeah.
yeah,
When did you know
cuisine.
you wanted to get into food for a career?
Oh, man. So, I mean, I watched the Food Network, and so that was another thing. So I watched the Food Network a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, and I should say this, like, my parents, like, nobody liked to cook in my family. My grandma cooked a lot,
Mm.
but my parents, they worked full time, and so we were kind of like latchkey kids, and we had to kind of make our own food, and the way that food was kind of approached in our house was just like, "How do we get this over with?" And then we had our
Mhm.
rotational meals that my mom kinda, like, threw together, and they were like, what were they? I mean, she made a curry chicken, and, that had its kind of, like, Guamanian or Chamoran influence where she would put a lot of soy sauce in it. I mean, that was the thing. We ate a lot of rice dishes, and then she would have, like, a meatloaf and, like, salmon cakes, beef stew, Salisbury steak. Like, these were just, like, like, the basic kind of American foods, but she would put her little spin on it, like she knew how to do, and then that was it. There was no passion behind what she was making, and
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
space kind of left much to be desired, I guess.
Mhm.
And in that way, it kind of really ushered me in because I was like, "Oh, like, I'm watching the Food Network, and it just feels like there's all these, like, crazy fun ingredients that people are working with," and, like, it just felt really magical and, like, yeah, fancy, I guess. I just
Yeah.
remember feeling like, "Man,
Yeah.
this is so fancy," and, like, "Look at these
Yeah.
beautiful kitchens," and, like, they just
Yeah.
have all of these ingredients at their disposal, and, like, they're not even thinking about, like, waste and, like, a lot of the, like, ways that we kind of approach food. It was just like,
Yeah.
"Okay, this is what's in the pantry," like, "Open
Yes.
these canned goods," and, like, like,
Yes.
there's not a lot of bright colors in the food, like, it was just,
Yeah.
like, what was available, and so I remember being when we were in Florida, there's, like, these wonderful little markets with produce that you can, like, pick up fresh, ingredients from. And after watching the Food Network, I would just think, "Oh, man, like, this is something I saw
Mm,
on
yeah,
TV." Like, "Oh my gosh, I can,"
yeah,
like, that was, like, kind of my entry point, and I was like, "I can take this back home and make something," you know? So, I just started playing, and I felt like nobody there wasn't a lot of resistance to it because nobody really cared about the kitchen, you know? Like, nobody was
yeah,
using this as a space to, like, do
yeah.
anything fun and exciting, so I kind of just claimed the space and started to play and experiment and had a lot of fun and found yeah, like, found just a way to express myself and share and, like, people sometimes they were into what I was making and sometimes not.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to pause here because this is like, again, like your story is so different from mine, and yet it feels like the same story because
Mhm.
here I grew up in the Midwest and totally
Yeah.
different foods that we ate, very Midwestern. But my experience of the kitchen was so that, like, it was
Yeah.
a utilitarian space. We ate to kind of get it over with. We did have Sunday night dinner every week, but I'm telling you, that dinner lasted 10 minutes top, like
Wow.
tops.
Yeah, yeah,
But it
yeah.
was through watching the Food Network and PBS, like that I realized this whole world existed and I started to play and I started to like I remember, like, the first time I cooked eggplant, and I was like, "Whoa, like, this is so cool,"
I
and I
know.
don't think anybody liked it except for me, but I was like, "This is like a
Yeah.
creative outlet," and
Yeah.
so it, like, started for
Yeah.
both of us, like, the kitchen started as a place of play, and I was an artist, like, I was a painter and a drawer, I was the artist in the family, and the kitchen became that space for me, it still
Yes.
is that space, but it sounds like that's how it feels for you too.
Absolutely, and it's so interesting that you're saying you were an artist because that like, my dad is, like, really into, like, positive thinking and all of that stuff, and I remember when I was 7 and he was, like told all of us well, maybe I was 6 or something, and he told us that we could be anything that we wanted to be, and at the time, I was, like, sketching out of these little books, and I was, like, writing in my journal, but I was also, like, kind of identifying myself as this painter or a drawer or a sketcher. And I was like, I want to be an artist when I grow up. And I do
Mm,
feel like
mm,
that same spirit translated so like
yeah.
effortlessly in the kitchen too. Like it didn't
Mhm.
feel separate from that process of creating art. Yeah.
And then so you became like this really well-known blogger, this really well-known food photographer, and then at some point, the kitchen ceased to become a place of play, and the same
Yeah.
thing happened for me. Our burnout stories are remarkably similar, but could you just share a little bit of that? Because then I think it's important people know that these things happen in our lives and they change us, and that
Yeah.
change is hard as hell, but also, like, there is another side. We do get
Right.
somewhere. We go somewhere from those moments. What was it that caused that rut, that kind of burnout that you talk about in the book?
So sometimes I'm afraid of like tapping into that space on a
Mm,
podcast just because
mm.
like when I do, I that headspace that I was in was truly, like, foggy, and I felt like I was spiraling a lot, and I was confused, and so when someone asks me, like, what was going on at that time, like, I go back there, and I'm like I
Yeah.
start to feel foggy
Mhm.
and confused in the conversations
Mhm.
I'm having with them, and I'm like and so I was afraid of I was afraid of
Mhm.
I'm afraid of being asked this, and so I almost wanna,
Yeah.
like, just for the sake of the conversation, to not, like, go
Mhm.
and
No,
crazy, like,
you
deep,
yeah.
headspace. Again, I just wanna say, like, yes, it was a blessing in a way because it caused the reckoning, like, it caused me
Yeah.
to drop everything, you know?
Yeah.
I just realized I hit the wall, and all
Yeah.
of my doing this, it
Mhm.
was really propelled by this fear, of not surviving. But I didn't realize that at the time. I was just going and going because I thought that I had to, you know. So the beauty in this is that you can't know your limits until you push past
Yeah.
them and then see
Mhm.
everything falling apart and see, oh man, there's
Mhm.
no fruit on the frayed edges of this, like there's nothing that exists that feels good all the way at the edge of
Yeah.
myself. So I have
Yeah.
to come back in, you know? And so I just think that's kind of like, yeah, like you said, that's just the part of the process of learning who you are and your capacity. And
Yeah.
then sometimes it has to be taken to that extreme for you to be like, oh man, I don't want to go back there. But now I find myself just really, really a little traumatized and like I'm very particular about what I take on. It's like I'm very
Mhm.
slowly, like,
Mhm.
moving forward. It's like, is this something that really resonates with me? Does this feel good? Like, I'm not just going to do anything anymore just because it shows up, and I'm not just going to say
Yeah.
yes to everything because I feel like no one else can do it, like I have to be that person that holds that. Like
Yeah.
I can put things down and I can say no and I can, you know, really honor my body and,
Yeah.
it's important that I really protect my energy, and it's, like, such a scarce resource,
Yes.
like, that's how it feels, like, it's like my body is, like, it only has so much that it can give, and so I have to, like, trust that I have help, that I can delegate, and that what
Mhm.
isn't needed for me to do, like, that I'll have the capacity to do what I need to do, and everything else
Yeah.
can kind of work itself out, basically. So I used to work for a food photographer, a commercial food photographer, and I was his right-hand man. I was his production assistant, and we ran his studio together, and it was so much work
Mhm.
watching just him do that and, like, have the clients and, like, do the project management, like, all of it, he really ran himself, and I was kinda just there to kind of support. And watching him, I knew I don't wanna do this, like, this is a
Yeah.
lot, like but
Yeah.
when I came out with Black Oak Baking and I got offered the opportunity to start shooting people's cookbooks, I was like, "Well, the opportunity is here.
Yeah.
Someone's trying to tap my talent. I have the talent, like, so maybe I should," And
Yeah.
in exchange for that, like, I can actually have a career, So, like, it was such a
Mhm.
practical place that I was approaching it from. For me, it was a practical place. So I kind of knew, like, my intuition was like, "This isn't really for you, and you're just doing it because it makes sense on
Mhm.
paper, but
Mhm.
it's not your heart." And I've just always been somebody
Yeah.
that you know, I really pride myself in, like, following my heart and doing, like,
Yeah.
kind of taking risks there and, like, in the most ironic way, it's the most stable thing to do, like, following your heart
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
is more reliable, it's proven to me to be more reliable of a path, so, yeah, I didn't do that, and so I learned the hard way, I think,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
like, kind of going after things based on, like, what it looks like and what it looks like on paper, and it was kinda like, yeah, like, chasing the career and the title and, like, the monetary, like, support versus, like, the art, honoring the art and
Mhm.
honoring, like, the divinity in my own process of unfolding and, like, allowing that to happen kind of more organically and not from this place of rush.
There's so much there that I wanna touch on. It's so interesting, that sense of urgency and success. Like, what I never defined success for myself, ever. A
Yeah.
success was something that somebody projected for me at some point, and that's what I thought success was. And it was really interesting several years ago when I was, like, really going through this transformation and all of the ego death that we talked about at the start of this episode, and it's like, "Wait, what is success for me?" And the first thing my inner voice told me that I wrote down was, it was like quiet. It was like space for quiet and inner reflection and contemplation. And I was like, "Wait, what the hell? Like, that's success?"
How am I supposed to get all of the things that I want by doing that? Like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like,
Right.
how does that connect? Oh my gosh, it's so
Yeah.
true. I was just journaling yesterday, and it was like, I was asked this question, like, what brings you so much joy?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
you know, journaling, time for reflection,
Yes.
leisure time. And it
Yes.
was like, "Oh gosh, like,
Yes.
am I allowed to say that?" Because it
Yes.
feels like it's supposed to be like, how am I because
Yeah.
I also love to make things beautiful. Like, I love
Mhm.
to
Mm.
I love to see things be made. Like, I wanna look
Yeah.
around and see beautiful things, and I'm like, "Oh, that can be moved here," and, it's just like but
Yeah.
a lot of it happens in my headspace too, and I think, like, the efforting that it takes to, like, move things in the 3D, is just, like, kind of exhausting. So
Yeah.
so it does
Seriously.
feel yeah, so it does feel like a lot of energetic work, like, happens,
Yeah.
like, in the head. So it's like it's not I don't know.
I want to share something that I wrote this morning in my journal, which is sitting right over next to me. Because, first of all, this just occurred to me yesterday after
Mhm,
having a meditation practice for 20 years, but really, really devoting myself to it in the past couple of years. And I'm in a season of life now where I have an 11-year-old and a 16-year-old. So I want to
mm,
qualify this season by naming that because my season of life was very different when the kids were really little, and it
yeah,
had to be. But
mhm,
now my morning starts with a morning meditation that is anywhere like a whole morning practice. And I have the time for it now, but also I had to convince myself that that was part of work. Like I had to start by when I was sitting this, I felt so guilty about this time that I needed for myself. That it was time that I wasn't devoting to like my kids, my work,
mhm,
quote, quote, whatever. And I've come to realize that practice is the foundation
yeah,
of my quote work. And then I can't do it without that. Like that has to happen. And then as my inner voice reminded me this morning, it was like, baby, you're just living life. Like stop living this idea of this concept of work. Like live life and let
yeah,
work or whatever be a creative pursuit within that. But I held so hard for so long onto this idea of like work versus life, and that there had
yeah,
to be this big that there wasn't, like, the quiet, the contemplation, the journaling, the spiritual seeking, that was somehow separate
separate,
from
yeah,
work, and now I'm like, "No, they can all exist together, and they can support each other." And I have to remind myself this often because I still will get into, like, work mode, like, "I've got this and this and this to get done," and it's like,
mhm,
"Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa," like, reel it back
yeah,
and try to like tap in to that deeper part of you because it's going to make stuff flow. It's going to make
yeah,
stuff happen in a way that feels authentic and spacious and not urgent and
yeah,
stressful.
yeah. I can say so much to what you just said, but I think, yeah, being around it's so interesting because I was spending a lot of time in those years before I came out with the book when I was really devoting a lot of time to reflecting and writing and like trying to pull myself out of that dark,
Mhm.
confused space. People would email me and they're like, I'm sure you're so busy, And I'd be like,
Mhm.
busy in a way that I don't
Right.
know you would call it.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
like it's but it's so
Yes.
important. Like and it is so
Yeah.
legit. It is busy. I'm busy.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm busy like aligning, And
Yeah. Yeah.
like right, like I can't do good work if I'm not blind. And
Yeah.
so that's absolutely the foundational practice is to like come back to the center, come back to the
Yeah.
source and create from that place. And that is the best work you can do. I feel like everything on the outskirts of that is just, if it's not coming from that place, it's just scattered energy and you're kind of just like
Yeah.
running like a chicken. Yeah. So like to
Yeah.
come back to that place and then to create from that place is like that one step from that place is 100 times more powerful
Mhm.
than, like, a billion steps with you probably think, you know what I'm saying, with
Yes,
yourself. So, yeah,
yes,
I just like to
yes.
think about that as just, like, I can do less work and more impactfully.
Mhm.
So that it's
Mhm.
just like, yeah, like, I'm just like one step is like, boom, And then
Yeah.
instead of like
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like, I'm not making any ground here. So
Yeah.
I've kind of like that's how I really justified that inner work for myself because and it is easier when you're not out there, Like, I think
Yeah.
when you are interacting with other people that are kind of making that type of surface work, they're putting a value on it, you
Mhm.
can start to put a value on it too, and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
man, like, I'm or they don't see me, and so I have to show up in this way so that they
Yeah.
don't think that I'm not trying or I don't care," So
Yeah.
that's such a battle, within yourself, and so that's why it has been easier for me to kind of just, like, disconnect in a way, and while it feels, like, mean or sometimes I feel really guilty for that because I feel like community is important, but I also feel like if you're I feel like it could be really easy to become a product of misaligned, like like, desires of
Yeah.
yourself, like,
Yeah.
people can want
Yeah.
something from you, and if you have the desire to be of help to people,
Mhm.
you can end up getting tangled in things that aren't really beneficial for anybody, right? Because it's not truly
Yeah.
authentic. And so while they think that it's helpful to them in the moment, it's not really helpful. So I feel like and I think this is the artist, I was listening to Rick Rubin say this, is like the best thing that an artist can do for the audience is not think about them while they're making the art,
Yeah.
is
Oh,
to really
so
just
true.
like, not make it about them at all, and then come and share it with
Yeah.
them because that's how you make the most authentic journal entry, and that's how
Yeah.
you really touch on, what's true. I feel like that's how you can get to the heart of what's true, even if it's, like, scary or, like, kind of embarrassing or, like, oh, like, I wouldn't say this to anybody, but, like, if you're thinking about what the audience will think about it, you can't truly, like, make it raw, like, it can't
Yeah.
be yeah,
And then you're not even accessing that place of honesty within yourself, and even if it
right.
doesn't go anywhere, to
Yeah,
access it is the gift, right? Like,
true.
that's the gift of creativity, and
Yeah,
I do think it's really important that people understand that that retreat, that sense of disconnecting is really important. And I want to say it doesn't last forever. Like like, it's like, yeah, find your people. I was really, really, really freaking lucky in 2019 into 2020. I found a women's group. This is going to sound super heady, but it is and it isn't. It's a shamanic journey group. It's really a meditation group, and it's really a therapy for all of us
yeah,
women who are in it. There's just a handful of us. We've been in this group now for over 6 years, and it's like my teacher is always reminding me, like, you have to get out, you have to separate yourself, you
yeah,
have to get out of the conditioning because as I am a people pleaser, I want people to feel
yeah,
happy and loved, but I also wanna feel loved. Like, I want that validation, and it's
mhm,
really important work for me to continually disconnect and to know when I need to. Like, I've been on a social media, lately. And I'm like, "Oh, I
yeah,
should post." And I'm like, "Never post when you say the word 'should' in front of it, Nikki." Like,
mm,
just don't do it. Don't that just there's nothing there. There's nothing there.
yeah,
Right now, it's like, but I think that it can be lonely work, no matter even if you have people who really see you, it's hard and it's lonely and it's also, like, super magical. It's, like, where we
yeah,
find our power and our the resilience. One
yeah,
thing I wanted to ask you about that we both talk about in our books is our bodies. Like, as cooks,
mm,
this is interesting for me because, like, we are feeding ourselves. Our bodies are
yeah,
these physical forms that we have to feed. But I think
yeah,
for you and I, it goes deeper than that. Like, the body can be this I guess that this is the question, like, what role does trusting your body have in the I wanna say the work you do, but, like, in the way you show up to the work you do?
how do I answer that? So, like, it's been such a journey, and I think because I, one, identified with my body as a kid being told that it was wrong
Mm,
or overweight or like my body was shamed so
yeah,
deeply as a kid that there was the initial disconnection from it. And so there's been that process in this book too of like coming back home to
mhm,
my body, coming back home to trusting its cravings that it has instead of like labeling these cravings as, somehow unhealthy, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah. Yep.
like certain poisons or, and I've been on so many diets and my mom was a heavy dieter, like really into fad dieting, putting me on fad diets as a kid.
Mm.
And just that was our relationship with food growing up. So I was like kind of holding both of these things where it's like, okay, I don't like my body. The world doesn't like my body. The world finds my body unacceptable. But I also have so much fun playing food and like
Mhm.
like enjoy it. It brings me so much joy to look at food and to like, and so it felt like they couldn't coexist, these two
Yeah.
states of myself. So writing this book felt like me just rebelling against all of that and just saying, okay, like, what does my body want? And I'm going to trust that my body is more
Mhm.
intelligent than my mind. I'm going to
Mhm.
trust that my body knows more than the conditions that have been put on it by society. And that all of the things within my vicinity are somehow here to help and serve. Because I think also this element of like my blackness, like my culture in the food space, there's like, what is considered healthy isn't a lot of the food that I grew up with, but yet I'm so heavily identified with, like, it's a part of who
Yeah.
I am too. So, like, having
Mhm.
all of these elements, I think, and putting them on the table and saying, okay, nothing is wrong, like, how do I lead forward from a place of inspiration, and kind of just like putting everything else away, I guess. I don't know if
Mhm.
this is really answering your question, but
It
I
is. No,
okay.
it's so beautiful, and I feel like a lot of I mean, I say this in almost every podcast, so listeners, you will know what I'm about to say, but, like, my mission is to help people find their sovereignty, and I use food as the pathway in,
Mhm.
and that step has to start with returning to ourselves.
Yeah,
Abigail Rose Clark, who's on my podcast, she's got a book that's called Returning Home to Our Bodies,
yeah.
and I had to make that voyage myself,
Mhm.
similar to you and very different from you, very different and very similar. The white privileged skinny girl who still had so much fucking shame around her body and so much fear. Oh my God, like I can't even get into it, but it's public at this point. But it's like, how do we reclaim that for ourselves? And when we do, it's like freedom. Like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is, and again, it requires disconnecting, which is lonely enterprise.
Yeah. And it's like step by step trusting and like listening
Yeah.
to that voice that's like, that's not my voice. That's my mom's
Mm.
voice, as I
Yeah.
eat this, or that's,
Mhm.
like, yeah. And so it's and I feel like I'm so much more free. Oh my gosh, I feel very free. I feel like I do eat the dessert without a shame,
Mm.
absolutely,
Mhm.
And I think it's interesting because the dinner ritual, like, I just noticed how much dessert I have on there, and it's called like, it's like
So good.
I mean, if you're thinking you're getting dinner recipes, like, it's very few and far in between, like, they're mostly, like decadent sweets, and, like, that has been this reclamation about, like, I have a
Mm.
sweet tooth, and it's wonderful, and it's glorious, and it hasn't gone away, and I totally embrace it, and my husband has come to embrace it too,
Yes.
like, I mean, I don't know,
Yes.
like, I just need that support, and sometimes it's, like, 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, "I want cookies," and, like,
Mhm.
and that's okay, and I don't feel shame for that, and I guess there's
Yeah.
maybe someone out there that could think, "Well, you should figure out, like, your emotional eating, you're eating emotionally," and it's just like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, but," and, like, so kind of, like, developing this relationship with my body as if it's my son, if it's a
Yeah.
child, like, I
Yeah.
if my child wants something sweet, I'm not gonna be like, "No, you can't have that." I'm gonna say, "Okay, honor that. How can we make it so that it's nourishing to your body and also
Yeah.
satisfying? So what
Yes.
ingredients could we add to this to make it a little bit more, like,
Yes.
nutrient dense?" And, like,
Yeah.
like, that's the kind of, like, rich conversation that I'm having versus, like, "No, you can't have it." This black and white
Yeah.
conversation, like, "It's bad." No, it's not. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not. And there is like, we have to tend to ourselves. I love that you just compared speaking to your body like you do to your son. Because it's like, that was oh my gosh, my friend Amanda sent me an Instagram reel. It had to have been 7 years ago,
Mhm.
and she's a yoga teacher. I don't know what this video was, but it was some guy, and he was like, "This is my favorite yoga pose." And he was kissing his hands and he was putting his hands on his body. And that video switched something on in me. And it helped me kind of see, like, wait, where am I doing that in my life? Where am I, like, tenderly kissing my body? And I don't mean
Mhm.
that, like, literally, but you know what I mean? Like,
You're being it's okay.
or getting a little racy in here, but, like,
I'm
I
here
had
for
to,
it. It's
like, right. I had to sit
fine.
with that of, like, how do I change the dialogue I'm having to
Yeah,
myself? And that's I write a lot about, like, being tender with myself, and now, like, I love it. I can't imagine being in the habitual brain space that I had been 10 years ago because my inner dialogue is so different
yeah,
from what it was, and I think,
mm,
like, when we're tender with ourselves, we can be like, "Yeah, girl, like, you want something
yeah,
sweet. Okay, like, how do we nourish this?" Like, and
yeah,
sometimes it's a cookie and sometimes it's not, like, that's
yeah,
but that both are
right.
okay.
Yeah, and I feel like allowing yourself to, like, go into that space where it can be a yes to it, it can sometimes just
Yes.
make it just that's all you needed, and then you're like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I don't need it," like, I
Yeah.
just needed to know
Yeah.
that you would love me even if I wanted that,
Mhm.
like, that I would accept myself no matter what. I think so much of my journey is about unconditional self-love,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I mean, I think having my Instagram, I built a lot of that up from diet, mentality because I think
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go on this plant-based thing." It was like a really popular thing at the time, and it was like taking over the internet, and I was like making food for so I feel like I built this audience and I was going really hard in that direction. And then it stopped feeling really authentic to me. And I feel like it was built from a place of, like, not loving my body, wanting
Yeah.
to change my body, wanting to,
Yeah.
like, lose weight, wanting to, like, be accepted by the world, wanting to,
Mhm.
like my body from a place of condition. And I
Mm.
think when I stopped doing that and I was just like, "I'm gonna eat what I crave," and I went to that darker place, like, it was like, "How can I love myself in this place?" Even though it feels like my body is, like, back to what it was like as a kid, and, like, when I didn't receive love and when I was told I wasn't enough, like, to hold myself in that space, like, I just feel like that was the journey, like, I had to learn to
Mm.
love myself when I could see myself presently as what I was told I couldn't be loved as. And I had to
Mm.
choose myself, and I did that every day, and I just, like, fought through that, and then
Mhm.
from that place, then you start making, like, healthier choices, like, after you've, like, kind of
After you go
accepted,
there.
like, after you have to
Oh,
go there, though,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So, like,
Yeah.
it's so easy to
Yeah.
be like, "I unconditionally love myself because my body is beautiful," but you know that in the back of your head, but you're like, "Nah, because I'm
Yeah.
eating really well," and, like, like that but it's like,
Yes.
my journey
Ah.
was to go back to my childhood self and, like,
Mm.
hold her just as she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like
Oh, I've, like, chills. I think that is so important. Like, we have to love that version and be honest with ourselves about that. But
yeah.
one thing I wanna ask you, you just ended that sentence with your inner self, and you start your book talking about your inner self, and I was like, "Oh, this is my kind of book." But
That's so cool.
I wanna ask you about play because for me and this is actually play has been an important part of my journey, but I would say more specifically, like, in the past 6 months, like,
Oh,
my
nice.
journaling, the word playfulness keeps showing up and, like, levity and, like, let it go, let it be light, let it be playful. And I found it such a powerful tool to bring to the kitchen or to bring I mean, of course, like we're talking this is kind of a food podcast, but we can talk about any aspect of our life. It's like play. And like that's what drew me to cooking in the first place. And we get so
Yeah.
caught up in like perfectionism or how things should be done or what this or that. And it's like, whoa, what if we bring back that sense of play and adventure and curiosity and
Mhm.
how much more joy and pleasure we get out of the experience. I'm curious, like, what brought you back to play? Or were there tools, or was it just like a gradual, was it a decision one day, or was it like a gradual journey of being like, "Wait a minute, the kitchen is where I actually express my creativity and all of that fun stuff."
I feel like it's my baseline, like, spirit. It's my baseline personality. Like, I'm
Mm.
silly, I'm goofy, and that is I mean, it's just like, yeah, like, I
Yeah.
am chaotic in ways, you know? I was doing this meditation, like, in the midst of, like, me trying to figure out my quote, unquote, "career" and, like, all of this stuff and, like, what's going on and how do I do this and how do I do that? And I did this meditation where I it was like a stillness meditation where you have to, like,
Mm.
hold your body, like, as still as possible. And I
Oh.
oh my gosh, in that meditation, I came into direct contact with my inner child who was just
Mm.
bursting with, like,
Mm.
curiosity and, like, excitement, and oh my god, like, I swear it was, like, this mini, like, awakening where I was just, "Oh my god,"
Yes.
like, I was like, "Oh my god, she's so excited, I can't sit still right now," like, it was just, like, amazing, and I was like, "Oh my god, I love her
Oh,
so much," like, I
yeah.
genuinely loved her, and I was like, "Oh my god, she's been buried by so many, like, ridiculous adulty things, you know, like,
Yes.
adult
Yes.
problems." I'm like, "What?" Just,
Yes.
like, even meditating felt you
Yes.
know, it's like this
It
adult
is.
thing to do. I was like,
Yeah.
"Sit still and don't do anything." It was
Yeah.
just like, "No, like, what?" So, man, I think back to that and, like and I just and I know, like, my spirit has been very playful, like, just going through life, and I remember, like, my best friend in college, we were just, like, the silliest people, you know, and, like, no one
Mhm.
took us seriously, and
Yes.
of course I can be
Yes.
serious, and of course I can be you know,
Right.
and it's almost like I went through the stage of needing to prove that I can
Yeah.
be serious and have, you know, like, great conversations and, like, you know, like, sit at the table with the best of them, but it's like, "Man, but do I
Yeah.
care?"
Yes.
Like, what does it matter? Like, I don't care. Like, I just wanna have a good time, you know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so kind of
Yes.
just, like,
Yes.
remembering that, and it's like,
Mhm.
ah, God, it's so stuffy to wanna be an expert in anything, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So stuffy
Oh,
to
I
want to
hear
be
that.
a perfectionist, you know, and it's only come because I wanted to be accepted by the world,
Mhm.
because I thought that being accepted would mean that the world would let me have my dream of having a TV show. Like, I'm not even joking.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
I wanted to be on the Food Network, so I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, man, like, I have to be exactly like" you know what I'm saying? Like, in a
Yes.
garden.
Oh my god,
I was
we
like,
have the
"What
same
inspiration?"
stories. Yes. What is
I
this? We
have
have
to
the
be like
same stories. Yeah. Mhm.
that
Yeah.
I have to look a certain way or behave a certain
Yes.
way to get the life that I want instead of just being like, you know, like just trust that my authenticity would bring me there and would bring
Yeah.
me there and it would feel more juicy too because somebody couldn't take it away
Mm.
from me. So I just think it was a matter of like seeing a lot of different people making like, not fitting within some kind of perfect mold to make their life, like, amazing, you know? And, like, I
Yeah.
think now with social media, you see so many people just, like, making the life that they want, and they don't fit any mold, and so I think that's been a
Mhm.
little bit helpful to see, but it's, like, finding who I am, you know? And, like,
Yeah.
finding who is authentically me, and, like, I can be inspired by something, but not mold myself to it.
Yeah.
Just kinda, like, take the things from it that
Yeah.
feel like me from it, you know, and, like,
Yeah.
use it to
Yeah.
kind of like, the spirit of it, but not so, yeah, I think it's just, like, in art, I remember struggling with this a lot
Mm.
because I was man, I love this style of art, and so I would go home and I would try to, like, recreate that style, and, like, you know, we would have sometimes assignments like that where you would have to, like, recreate an artist's painting or something like that. But, like, learning, like, what is your style? And it comes
Mhm.
from, like, practicing a lot of different styles, but then also just, like, the experience of, like, doing constantly, and then,
Yes.
like, your style emerging from that. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of like life too, right? Like, you're like, "Oh, that's really cool and inspiring, and I'll try that, and that person doing that, and I'll try that." But, like, then it's like you find your own rhythm, and then you're, like, doing something consistently over and over and over and over again, and then you lose yourself in that, but then
Yeah.
ironically, you find a style, like,
Yeah.
comes from that. Like, and so it's just like, I don't know, like, so you can't
Yeah.
really, like, force a style. It feels like it just comes organically. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and so it's like we talk about this a lot, and it's like this idea of conformity versus being your own person, and she's super into fashion, and she's a sewer, and she makes things all the time, and it's like how do you find your own spin on things? But also, like, that can be a lot of pressure to ask of somebody to be like, "Okay, what's your style? What's it?" And I'm like,
Right.
"Just be like, let it come out. Like, you don't have to
Yeah.
try
It
so
takes
hard."
time. Yeah, like,
And
and I
it takes time. Yeah.
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 A
One thing that I
16-year-old to figure out her style, that's like, what? Like,
seriously, right?
does it
Exactly.
the
I'm like, "You
pressure of
got a
doing it is insane.
lifetime."
Exactly.
That's one thing I love about the recipes in your book, speaking of, like, play and just I can tell these recipes are just things you love to eat, and so I had a conversation with Lucas Volger about this because I think for both him and I, it's easy to be like, "Okay, well, I can't eat gluten." So I'm like, "I'm gluten-free, so my recipes all kinda have to do this thing," or like, "I'm not a vegetarian, so I shouldn't use certain ingredients." Whereas, like, there's no why. Like, why can't we just do all the things? And in your book, it's like, you eat meat, but you have a recipe for shiitake bacon, and it's like tofu, and, like, you eat fish, but you have a watermelon sushi recipe, and it's just like, I could tell, like,
Yeah.
these, like,
Oh
all the
my
rules are off the
I
table. You're
love
just
that
like,
you noticed
"These
that.
are just things I love to eat," and
Yeah.
that's it. Like, there doesn't have to be this, like, label for so
Yeah.
long. I think that's what I'm trying to get to is, like, we've been so labeled. Like, we label
Yeah.
ourselves, we put ourselves in these buckets and these definitions, and it's just like, I wanna, like, burn all of that down and just be me.
Yeah. Okay, so I have so much to say to that, but, like, I remember when I was in Boston and I was doing more, like, vegan stuff, and I hung out with a friend who ate meat, and she was like she told me, like, secretly kind of like, she was, like, a little timid about it, and she was like, "I feel like I really wanna try, like, vegetarian or vegan things, but I feel like I'm not really allowed to," you know? Like, the
Like,
vegan
what?
community won't let me. And I was like,
Yeah. Wait, what?
"Terrible, you should do whatever you want." But
Yes.
yeah, like, I think so I wrote Black Girl Baking and, I think labels can be such an inspiration, right? Because I think
Mhm.
when you simplify something, like, even in art, like, the less you have to work with, the more creative you can get.
That's
But then
true.
there also
Yeah.
comes a point where the label becomes so limiting, and
Mhm.
it's like, "Okay, I wanna get rid of that label too," because I'm
Yeah.
more than all of that, you know? And so I love that you noticed that, like, because I do feel like each step should be, like, starting from scratch, right? Like, each step should be like, "Okay, who am I right now? What do I
Yeah.
want?"
Yeah. That's
Instead
it.
of like yeah, instead of like, "Well, the past said I was this," and it's just like, what is true freedom? Man,
Mhm.
yeah, so, like, freedom to choose what you want in each moment is the most authentic thing, you know?
Mm.
And staying
Yeah.
authentic to yours now. Yeah. So, oh my gosh, yeah, I love that. Like, I love that. Like, I talk so much about, like, I hate labels. They're like a system of control, but sometimes
Yeah,
you like them. Like,
that's
sometimes they are,
true.
like, the initial step toward, like, learning yourself, and then you have to, like, break through them and be like, "Nah, but I'm
Well,
also just a soul."
I think we have to, like, remind ourselves that all things are true, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
all things
yeah.
are true. So there is a place for labels. You're right.
Mhm.
I don't you're totally right. Like, I just wanted to throw them like, throw them away, but, like, no, we need it. We actually need to like, we need them to function. But
Yeah, like, to
also
find, like yeah.
and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
we
also and.
and they're confining, like, both things are true, and so let's not get hung up on either or, which I think is, like,
Yeah.
a very good lesson for all of life.
Yeah.
I we are, like, so far over time, but
Oh, are
I
we? Okay,
feel like
well,
I have a list of questions in front of me that I haven't even looked at. Like, I have no idea.
we kinda knew that was gonna happen, though. We're like,
Yeah,
"Here's some
we just
questions, but, hopefully it takes us far away from here." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know."
Yeah,
I've loved
I
our
love it.
conversation so much, and
Oh my
I'm very,
gosh.
very grateful to speak.
I I know it's gonna be the first of many, but I do want you to tell people where they can find you, and even though I'm gonna include all the links and all that, and then I do have one last question for you. It's how I close out every episode, and it's just a fun one. But first of all,
Okay.
like, where can people find you?
So, like, I have my newsletter right now, which is the dinner ritual, and that's where I'm kind of showing up, like, just fully myself, and, like, that's where I'm playing and doing all of that stuff. I'm very sporadically on Instagram, and that's mostly just for like marketing and stuff for the book. But yeah, so newsletter is the dinner rituals, substack.com, I think.
I
Yeah.
will link to it. And then my last question for now is if it were your last meal on earth in this moment
Oh,
right now, what would you choose? Like what would your body choose right now?
oh man. My last meal. Oh God. Spaghetti. I don't know. Is that what? Oh no,
Mm.
lasagna. Okay. It would be lasagna.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
like a
love this.
really,
Yeah,
yeah.
tell me about your lasagna. Like tell me about your lasagna.
This is such a hard question. Oh man, I don't know. Could it be like a smorgasbord?
Yes.
I think
Oh,
I
it can
love
be so
tasting like
weird.
okay. Okay, let me think. Like, okay, so it'd be a cheese board. Like, I love to have like a little cheese
Mm.
board snare, just like
Okay.
to pick on stuff, so, like really nice crackers, some kind of dippy thing.
Mhm.
And then, oh, I would want like a mocktail right now because,
Mhm.
I don't want to get like too loopy with a cocktail, but it has to be like a sparkly thing so that gets me ready to go. Yeah, yeah. And then if I'm so hungry, a lasagna.
Oh, it's amazing. I love this
Ridiculous.
meal. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thanks,
This conversation has been so special.
I loved it too. Thanks for being my friend and for inviting me on. I appreciate it. Like popping out to just be like, "Hey, oh my gosh, I see you. That's
I
awesome."
see you. I will always see you. Thank you so much for listening. If this work resonates with you in any way, you can support it by leaving a review or comment or sharing it with friends. Also, you can sign up for the newsletter, Mind, Body, Spirit, Food. And by becoming a paid member for just $5 a month, you help fund this entire project. Thank you so much to all of you who are already subscribed, especially to those paid subscribers. This work could not happen without you. I'm Nicki Sizemore, and as always, remember to nourish yourself with intention and love.